My name is Evelyn Rowe, and I am 72 years old. Most folks in Black Harbor, Maine just call me the Lighthouse Lady. For 51 years, I have climbed the iron stairs of Rowan's Head Light every single night to light the lamp, same as my husband Thomas did before me, same as his father and grandfather did before him. People say the light saved more lives than any church in the county. They never thought it would have to save mine. Thomas disappeared on the night of November 12, 1974. The Coast Guard called it Lost at Sea. His dory was found overturned 3 miles out, oars gone, thermos still lashed to the thwart. No body ever washed up. I was 31 then, with 3 children under 10 and another light to keep burning. So I kept it burning. Every night for 51 years. I never missed a single one. Our children grew up in the keeper's cottage, bolted to the rocks like a barnacle. There was Abigail, the oldest, sharp as winter salt. Benjamin, quiet and watchful, always watching the water. And little Charlotte, born the year Thomas vanished, who never knew her father except in photographs. They all left Black Harbor the minute they could. Abigail to Boston with her real estate money and her cold husband Richard. Benjamin to Portland, then Seattle, then wherever the tech money blew him. Charlotte to Los Angeles, chasing something bright that kept moving farther away. For decades, the only time they came home was when they needed something. A signature on a tax form, a place to hide from a divorce, or lately to stand on my porch in expensive coats and tell me it was time to sell the lighthouse. Rowan's Head Light sits on 23 acres of the prettiest, wildest coastline in Maine. The federal government deeded it to the Rowe family in 1892 on the condition the light stay lit and the family keep it. The deed says the land can never be sold to anyone outside the bloodline, but the children found a loophole. If the keeper dies and no qualified relative steps forward within 1 year, the state can seize it for public good. They have been waiting for me to die for a very long time. Last month, the 4 of us stood in my kitchen while the wind screamed around the tower like it wanted inside. "Mom," Abigail said, using the same voice she uses on nervous sellers, "Sea Cliff Resorts is offering $28 million. 28! You could have nurses, travel, anything you want." "I want to die in my own bed with the sound of the foghorn," I told her. Thomas spoke up, soft as always. "The stairs are getting dangerous, Mom. You slipped last winter. What if you fall?" Charlotte, who hadn't looked me in the eye once, added, "We just want you safe." They left with promises to revisit the conversation soon. I locked the door behind them and climbed the 94 steps to light the lamp, same as always. Only this time, when I reached the service room, something new blinked on the work table. A black cell phone, brand new. No one had been in the tower but me. It buzzed once in my hand like a trapped bee. One message, unknown number. "I never left the island. They locked me in the cellar. Don't sell." My knees gave out. I sat on the cold iron floor and stared at those words until the screen went dark. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I texted back, "Who is this?" The answer came before I finished climbing down. "Your husband. They're coming back tonight. Hide this phone. Trust no one." I have not slept more than 20 minutes at a stretch since that night. I am old, but I am not foolish. I have spent 5 decades reading the sea and the sky. I can read a lie just as clear. My children's faces when they talked about selling were the same faces they wore the week Thomas vanished. Calm, too calm, like gulls waiting for a body to wash up. I hid the phone inside the old brass speaking tube that runs from the lantern room to the cellar. No one has used the tube since before radio. Then I did what any keeper does when a storm is coming. I prepared. I started watching. They came separately this time, so I wouldn't be alarmed. First Abigail and Richard, just for the weekend. Then Benjamin, taking a sabbatical from the startup. Finally, Charlotte, tearful, saying her latest movie fell apart and she needed home. By the middle of October, all three of my children were sleeping under my roof again since 1987. They smiled too wide, they poured my tea, they asked if I was taking my heart pills. And every night, while they thought I slept, the phone and the speaking tube buzzed against my ear like a secret heartbeat. They're going to do it soon, same way they did me. Carbon monoxide from the old generator. Accident. Old lady falls asleep and never wakes up. I'm in the root cellar under the oil house. There's a false wall behind the apple barrels. Come alone. Bring light. I am 72 years old. My hips ache on damp days, but I have climbed those stairs with broken ribs and fever and grief heavier than any nor'easter. I can still do what needs doing. On the 1st of November, the nor'easter came early, the kind that tears roofs off and drags boats out to the deep. Power lines went down all along the coast. The children insisted we run the big diesel generator in the oil house so I would stay warm. They filled my teacup with chamomile and kissed my forehead and told me to rest. I waited until the house was quiet. Then I put on Thomas's old yellow storm coat, took the big watch light from the watchroom, and went out into the storm. The wind tried to throw me off the rocks. Rain came sideways like birdshot. I made it to the oil house, a stone building half buried in the hillside behind the tower. The generator roared inside, pumping exhaust into the night. The root cellar door was padlocked. I had not opened it in 20 years. The key still hung on the nail by the foghorn trumpets. My hands shook so hard, I nearly dropped it twice. The cellar smelled of salt and apples and something worse. I swept the flashlight across stone walls slick with the century of damp. Apple barrels stood in neat rows exactly where Thomas left them in 1974. I counted 7 barrels in from the door, just like the text said. Behind the 7th was a wall of rough planks that didn't quite match the rest. I pushed. It swung inward on hidden hinges. The smell hit me first. Human, sour, alive. Then the beam of my light found him. He sat chained to an iron ring bolted into the bedrock. His beard was white and reached his waist. His eyes were the pale blue I used to see every morning for 11 years of marriage. He lifted one thin hand to shield his face from the light. "Evie," he croaked. My name sounded like it came from the bottom of the sea. I dropped to my knees. The flashlight rolled, throwing wild shadows. "Thomas, they told me you were dead," he whispered. "Said you drowned yourself after I left. Kept me alive so the light would stay lit and the deed would stay safe. Said when you were gone, they'd bury me with you and sell the land free and clear." His wrists were raw scar tissue over the shackles. 51 years. I don't remember screaming. I only remember the rage, clean and bright as burning magnesium. I unchained him with the bolt cutters I had brought for storm damage. He weighed less than my 12-year-old grandson. I carried him up the cellar steps and into the storm like he was made of matchsticks. We made it to the base of the tower. The generator still thumped behind us. I knew what I had to do. I sat Thomas on the bottom step, wrapped him in the storm coat, and climbed. 94 steps. My lungs burned. My knees screamed. At the top, I opened the vent windows wide so the wind howled through the lantern room like a freight train. Then I shut off the main breaker. For the first time in 133 years, Rowan's headlight went dark. Down below, I heard shouting, doors slamming, feet on wet gravel. I took the satellite phone the Coast Guard had forced on me last year and dialed the number I had memorized from the strange texts. A man answered on the first ring. "Mrs. Rowe? Who is this?" "Petty Officer Daniel Ramirez, Coast Guard Station Black Harbor. We've been getting an emergency beacon from your tower for 20 minutes. Are you in distress?" "Yes," I said. "And I have a man here who's been missing since 1974. Send everyone. And tell them to bring handcuffs." I looked out the lantern room window. 3 figures stumbled across the rocks toward the tower, flashlights cutting crazy paths through the rain. My children. Abigail reached the door first. She was screaming my name, real panic now. I opened the service room door at the top and waited on the landing. They climbed fast, fear making them clumsy. Abigail, then Benjamin, then Charlotte. When they saw me alive at the top, relief flooded their faces for one heartbeat. Then they saw the man in the yellow coat behind me. Charlotte dropped her flashlight. It spun down the iron stairs, clanging like a fire bell. Benjamin whispered, "Dad?" Thomas stepped forward into the light. His voice was sandpaper and grief. "Hello, children. It's been a long time." Abigail turned to run. Charlotte collapsed, sobbing. Benjamin just stood there, rain streaming down his face, looking suddenly 10 years old again. The Coast Guard arrived with state troopers 27 minutes later. The storm made everything slow, but the light was dark and ships were already calling in panic. No one ignores a missing light on this coast. They found a generator rigged to pump exhaust into the keeper's cottage through a flexible hose hidden under the floorboards. Tragic accident was the plan. Old lady forgets to vent the generator, falls asleep, never wakes up. Then the light goes dark, no qualified keeper, land reverts to the state. Children sell to Seacliff Resorts for $28 million. They found the forged death certificate for Evelyn Marie Rowe, dated tomorrow. They found the chains and the false wall and 51 years of canned peaches Thomas had lived on. And they found the 3 burner phones in Abigail's purse, the ones that had been texting me for weeks. Benjamin had written every message, mimicking his father's old way of talking from letters he still kept. He broke first, of course, told the troopers everything. How they were children when Thomas caught them trying to burn down the cottage for the insurance money. How they knocked him out, chained him in the cellar, faked the boating accident. How they convinced me over the years that he had abandoned us. How they waited 51 years for me to die naturally so no one would ever look too close. Abigail lawyered up and said nothing. Charlotte tried to kill herself in the holding cell and lived. Benjamin just kept saying, "We were kids. We didn't mean forever, just until Mom got over it." There is no getting over it when your children bury your husband alive for 51 years. The trial was held in Ellsworth the following spring. The whole country watched. America's oldest cold case, the headlines called it. Thomas sat beside me every day, thin and trembling but alive. He held my hand like we were still newlyweds. Abigail got life without parole. Benjamin took a plea for 40 years. Charlotte was sent to the state psychiatric hospital. Some days she still thinks it is 1974 and her father is late coming home from fishing. Rowan's headlight was relit the night the jury came back. Thomas and I climbed the stairs together. He needed help on the last 20, but we made it. I lit the lamp. He threw the switch that started the rotation. The great lens turned, and the beam swept out across the water, steady and strong as the first night it was lit in 1890. We stood there until dawn, watching the light find every rock and reef Thomas used to warn ships about. "Think we can keep it going a few more years?" he asked, voice soft against the glass.
I leaned my head on his shoulder. The smell of him was different now, but underneath was still the man I married. As long as it takes, I said. Some nights, now when the fog is thick and the horn moans every 30 seconds, folks on the water swear they see 2 figures in the lantern room instead of 1, an old woman in a red sweater and an old man in a yellow coat, standing close, keeping the light. They say the light has never burned brighter, and it never will go dark again, not while a Rowan still draws breath. Because some things are worth climbing 94 steps for, even when your knees shake and your heart is broken. Some promises outlast even betrayal. The sea took my husband once. It will never take him again. And it will never take me. This is Evelyn Rowe, keeper of Rowan's headlight, signing off. The lamp is lit. The light is true.